Imagine living in a world where every choice you make is a struggle between morality and survival, where your thoughts are constantly at war, and where the depths of the human soul are more terrifying than any external force. Now, what if I told you that one man not only explored these struggles, but understood them better than anyone else? His name was Fyodor Dostoyevsky, and his insights into human nature, suffering, and redemption remain as relevant today as they were in his time. By the end of this video, you will see life and yourself differently. We will uncover the profound wisdom hidden in his works, the shocking truths he revealed about human nature, and most importantly, the ultimate lesson that could change the way you think forever. The last insight is the most powerful of them all, and it may completely transform your perspective on life. Dostoyevsky was not just a writer, he was a prophet of the human soul. His novels do not simply tell stories, they expose the raw truth of existence, the agony of guilt, the weight of conscience, and the eternal conflict between good and evil within us all. His characters, from the tormented Raskolnikov in Crime and Punishment to the philosophical Ivan in The Brothers Karamazov, are not just fictional. They are reflections of our own deepest fears, desires, and contradictions. To understand Dostoyevsky is to understand ourselves. But what makes his work so timeless? Why do people still turn to him when searching for meaning? Because Dostoyevsky wrote from experience, real suffering, real redemption, real battles with the human condition. He was a man who lost everything, stared death in the face, and came back transformed, with a vision of life that remains unparalleled. Let us take a journey through his mind, his struggles, and the wisdom he left behind. Dostoyevsky's life was as dramatic and tragic as his novels. Born in 1821 in Moscow, he was raised in a strict household and exposed early on to the harsh realities of life. His father, a bitter and authoritarian man, was rumored to have been murdered by his own serfs, a fate that Dostoyevsky later mirrored in The Brothers Karamazov, where a father is violently killed by his own son's neglect. Whether true or not, this event shaped the way Dostoyevsky saw the world, full of cruelty, yet also filled with redemption. As a young man, he was drawn to radical political ideas, which would soon cost him everything. Arrested in 1849 for his involvement with a group of intellectuals discussing banned literature, he was sentenced to death. He and his fellow prisoners were lined up before a firing squad, blindfolded, waiting for the shots that would end their lives. At the last moment, a messenger arrived. His sentence had been commuted to exile and hard labor in Siberia. This psychological torment, the experience of facing death and then being granted life, would haunt him forever and influence some of his greatest works. It was in Siberia, among criminals and outcasts, that Dostoyevsky truly began to understand human nature. He saw men stripped of all illusions, reduced to their most primal selves. Some remained unrepentant, while others found faith. This experience gave birth to one of the most fundamental themes in his works, the idea that suffering is not just pain, but a path to understanding. What does suffering mean to you? Have you ever considered that your greatest struggles might also be your greatest teachers? Dostoyevsky believed that without suffering there could be no true depth to a person's soul. This was not mere theory for him, it was lived experience. When he returned from exile, he wrote Notes from the Underground, a novel that serves as a psychological confession of a man who despises society, but also himself. It is here that Dostoyevsky introduces one of his most haunting ideas, that humans are not driven solely by logic or self-interest, but by something darker, something unpredictable. We are creatures of contradictions, and sometimes we choose suffering over happiness simply to prove that we are free. Think about that for a moment. Have you ever sabotaged your own happiness? Have you ever acted against your own best interest, knowing full well the consequences? This is what Dostoyevsky understood better than anyone, that human nature is not simple, and true self-awareness requires looking into the abyss of our own contradictions. And yet, he did not leave us in despair. Dostoyevsky believed in redemption, not the kind that comes easily, but the kind that is fought for, earned through suffering and self-discovery. This is only the beginning of our exploration into his mind. The deeper we go, the more we will uncover, and the more you will see how his insights apply to your own life. And remember, the final lesson is the most powerful of all. Dostoyevsky's world is one where every thought is a battlefield, every decision a moral crossroads. His characters wrestle not only with society but with themselves, with forces within that they barely understand. And in these struggles, he uncovers truths that resonate across time, truths that challenge us to look deeper into our own souls. Take Crime and Punishment, for example. On the surface, it is a story of murder and guilt. But beneath that, it is a meditation on human justification, on the seductive power of ideas that allow us to believe we are above morality. Raskolnikov, the novel's protagonist, commits a crime not out of hatred or necessity, but because he believes he has the right to do so. He sees himself as an extraordinary man, above the laws that bind ordinary people. And yet his crime does not bring him power, it brings him torment. Guilt consumes him, and he finds himself trapped in a prison of his own making, not just physically, but mentally and spiritually. Now ask yourself, have you ever tried to justify something you knew was wrong? Have you ever convinced yourself that the end justified the means, only to later feel the weight of your actions pressing down on you? Dostoyevsky understood this universal experience, the inner war between logic and conscience, between ambition and morality. But Crime and Punishment is not just a story of guilt, it is also a story of redemption. In the novel, Raskolnikov's salvation comes not from avoiding punishment, but from accepting it. His journey mirrors a larger truth Dostoyevsky believed in, that suffering is not the enemy of the soul, but its purifier. Through suffering, we are stripped of illusions, forced to confront who we truly are. It is no surprise, then, that Dostoyevsky saw faith as central to human transformation. He did not preach a simple, naive belief in goodness. His view of faith was one forged in fire, tested by doubt. Consider The Brothers Karamazov, perhaps his greatest novel. In it, we see the full spectrum of belief and doubt, embodied in the three brothers: Alyosha, the devoted believer; Ivan, the intellectual skeptic; and Dmitri, the passionate, impulsive seeker. Their struggles are not just personal, they are philosophical, existential. Ivan delivers one of the most famous arguments against faith. If God exists, why does suffering exist, especially the suffering of innocent children? He presents a case so compelling that even today it is cited as one of the most powerful challenges to religious belief. And yet, Dostoyevsky does not answer with simple dogma. He does not dismiss Ivan's doubts, but places them at the heart of the human experience. Alyosha, the believer, does not refute his brother's arguments with logic, but with love, with action. The novel suggests that faith is not about having all the answers. It is about choosing to love, even in the face of uncertainty. This is a question that has haunted humanity for centuries. Can we find meaning in a world filled with suffering? Dostoyevsky's answer is complex. He does not promise an easy path, but he insists that meaning is possible, not through avoiding suffering, but through enduring it, transforming it into something greater. Have you ever faced a moment in your life when you questioned everything, when the weight of existence felt unbearable? If so, Dostoyevsky speaks to you. His novels are not meant to comfort. They are meant to awaken, to shake you from complacency, to force you to confront the hardest questions of life. And the deeper we go into his works, the more we see that his understanding of human nature was not just philosophical, it was psychological. Long before Freud, Dostoyevsky explored the subconscious, the hidden desires and fears that drive our actions. His characters are not merely people, they are psychological case studies. They reveal how trauma, guilt, pride, and faith shape the human mind. In Notes from the Underground, the narrator confesses that he enjoys his own suffering. He admits that he acts against his best interests just to prove he has free will. This insight, this idea that humans sometimes choose self-destruction over happiness, was revolutionary. It anticipated modern psychology's understanding of self-sabotage, of how we sometimes cling to pain because it is familiar, even when it harms us. Think about your own life. Have you ever repeated a mistake, even when you knew it would hurt you? Have you ever found yourself stuck in patterns of behavior you could not explain? Dostoyevsky understood this before psychology even had a name for it. He saw that we are not always rational creatures, that our deepest motivations are often hidden even from ourselves. But he did not leave us without hope. If his novels expose the darkness of the human soul, they also illuminate the path forward. He believed that redemption was possible, not through avoidance but through confrontation. That by facing our own darkness, by enduring suffering, by choosing love over despair, we could transform ourselves. This is why his works remain so powerful today. They are not just stories, they are revelations. They force us to look at ourselves, to question our own beliefs, to ask the hardest questions about life and meaning. And yet, there is still one final insight, one last profound truth that Dostoyevsky revealed, a truth so powerful that if understood, it can change the way you see yourself and the world forever. Dostoyevsky's final and most powerful insight lies in his understanding of love, not the sentimental, fleeting kind, but a love forged in suffering, a love that transcends logic, a love that redeems even the most lost of souls. His novels are filled with characters who seem beyond salvation, yet he never fully abandons them. Even in the darkest of human conditions, he sees the possibility of transformation. Consider The Idiot, where Prince Mishkin, a man of pure goodness, enters a corrupt and cynical world. His kindness is misunderstood, his sincerity mocked, and his attempts to bring healing to those around him only seem to create more chaos. But Dostoyevsky is not naive. He knew that goodness in a cruel world does not go unpunished. And yet Mishkin represents something radical, the idea that true strength is found not in power, not in intellect, but in compassion. Have you ever felt that kindness is seen as weakness? That in a world driven by competition, by ambition, by self-interest, those who choose love are the ones who suffer most? Dostoyevsky challenges this notion. He suggests that suffering for love is not weakness. It is the ultimate test of the human soul. In The Brothers Karamazov, this theme reaches its peak. One of the most profound moments in the novel comes from the humble monk Zosima, who teaches that true redemption comes not from punishing others, but from taking responsibility for all of humanity. He claims that we are all guilty, not just for our own sins, but for the sins of the world. At first, this seems absurd. Why should we be responsible for others? But look deeper. Dostoyevsky is not calling for guilt, he is calling for radical empathy. What if, instead of blaming others for the world's problems, we looked inward? What if, instead of seeking revenge, we sought understanding? What if, instead of demanding justice, we offered forgiveness? This is the lesson Dostoyevsky offers, that redemption is not found in judgment, but in love. Think about the conflicts in your own life, the moments of anger, of resentment, of disappointment. Have you ever held on to pain, unwilling to forgive? Have you ever justified your bitterness, believing it was your right to be angry? Dostoyevsky would ask, what if you let go? What if, instead of seeking to win, you sought to understand? What if, instead of closing your heart, you opened it? This is not easy. It is not comfortable. It requires facing the very things we wish to avoid. But Dostoyevsky believed that the greatest truths are not found in comfort, but in struggle. And the greatest transformation does not come from avoiding pain, but from embracing it, learning from it, and choosing love despite it. His own life was proof of this. He endured exile, prison, poverty, illness, and the loss of loved ones. He had every reason to become bitter, to turn against life itself, and yet he did not. In his final years, despite all he had suffered, he wrote with a newfound sense of hope. He believed that no matter how far someone had fallen, no matter how deep their suffering, redemption was always possible. And this is why his works endure. They are not just stories, they are mirrors. They force us to see ourselves, to face our own contradictions, our own fears, our own struggles. And if we are willing to listen, they offer something even greater, the possibility of transformation. So now the question is yours to answer. What will you choose? Will you see suffering as a curse or as a teacher? Will you cling to resentment or embrace the power of love? Will you continue searching for meaning, even when the answers are not easy? Dostoyevsky has given us the questions. The answers are up to us. Dostoyevsky's greatest gift to us is not just his stories, nor his deeply human characters, but the profound truths hidden beneath them. He did not offer easy answers, nor did he write to entertain. He wrote to awaken, to challenge us, to force us to confront the things we spend our lives avoiding: guilt, suffering, redemption, faith, and the raw complexity of the human soul. But perhaps his most important insight is this: no one is beyond redemption. No one is truly lost. The path may be painful. It may require suffering, humility, and self-examination, but there is always a way forward. Look at his most tortured characters. Raskolnikov, the murderer, begins his journey believing he is above morality, that some men have the right to commit evil for a greater cause. But guilt eats away at him. He realizes that no logic, no philosophy can erase the weight of what he has done. And in the end, what saves him is not his intellect, nor his ability to justify himself. It is love. It is the presence of Sonia, the woman who, despite all her own suffering, chooses to believe in him. Dostoyevsky believed that love is not simply an emotion. It is an act of salvation, a force more powerful than guilt, more powerful than punishment. Love is what pulls Raskolnikov back from the abyss, and it is what can pull any of us back, no matter how lost we feel. Have you ever felt unworthy of forgiveness? Have you ever believed that your past mistakes define you? Dostoyevsky would tell you, they do not. What defines you is what you choose now. What defines you is whether you have the courage to confront yourself, to take responsibility, to seek redemption, and to allow yourself to be transformed. This is why The Brothers Karamazov is considered his greatest masterpiece, because it does not just present a world of suffering and despair, it presents a path forward. It shows us that we all contain within us the capacity for good and evil, for love and cruelty, for faith and doubt. And in the end, it is not intelligence, not power, not wealth that matters. It is what we choose to believe in. It is whether we choose to love despite the pain, to hope despite the suffering, to seek meaning even in the face of uncertainty. Dostoyevsky himself faced this choice many times. He could have given in to despair, to nihilism, to the belief that life was meaningless, but he did not. He chose to believe in the possibility of redemption, in the power of suffering to transform the soul, in the ultimate triumph of love over darkness. And now, that choice is ours. What will we do with suffering? Will we let it consume us, or will we let it change us? Will we seek revenge, or will we seek understanding? Will we hide from truth, or will we face it head-on? Dostoyevsky's novels do not give us the answers. They do something far more powerful. They give us the questions that define who we are, what we believe in, and what we will become. And that is why, even centuries after his death, his words still speak to us. Because they are not just his, they are ours. They are the questions we must all ask ourselves, the struggles we must all face, the journey we must all take. The final truth Dostoyevsky leaves us with is this: no matter how lost we feel, no matter how much we have suffered, no matter how much we doubt, there is always a path to redemption, and that is what makes life worth living. Thanks for looking.